Single dad stands up for paralyzed poor girl accused of shoplifting, unaware her father is a millionaire. It was an ordinary Tuesday afternoon at Westbrook Market, a cozy little grocery store tucked between a laundromat and a coffee shop in a quiet Texas town. The place smelled like cinnamon bread and floor polish. Regular customers moved lazily through the aisles, chatting about weekend plans. But near the front counter, that calm was about to shatter. A young woman in a wheelchair sat frozen, her cheeks flushed and her hands trembling around a small cloth bag. Her name was Elena Moore. Across from her, the store supervisor, Mr. Garrison, glared down with a look sharp enough to cut glass. "You think you can get away with it?" he barked, snatching at the bag. "We all saw you slip that chocolate bar inside." Heads turned instantly. Whispers rippled across the store. An older woman in the produce section muttered something under her breath and shook her head. Elena's voice came out soft, almost breaking. "I didn't steal anything. I paid for everything I bought. Before we continue, please tell us where in the world are you tuning in from? We love seeing how far our stories travel. Don't forget to like and subscribe." Back to the story. Mr. Garrison sneered. "Sure you did. That's what they all say." With a rough jerk, he upended her bag onto the counter. Groceries spilled everywhere, bread, milk, apples rolling in every direction. A candy bar clattered onto the floor. At the end of aisle 3, Daniel Hayes stopped mid-step. He was a single father in his mid-30s, dressed in worn jeans and a faded flannel shirt, his little girl Maya holding onto his hand. He'd come in to buy juice boxes and cereal. But now, his eyes hardened as he saw what was happening. Daniel walked forward, his voice steady. "Hey, why are you talking to her like that?" The manager scoffed. "This is none of your business, sir." "Looks like it became my business the moment you decided to humiliate her," Daniel replied calmly. He crouched beside Elena, gently gathering her spilled groceries. "Did you take anything?" he asked softly. She shook her head, her eyes brimming with tears. "No. I swear I didn't." Daniel turned back to the manager. "Then maybe you should check your facts before accusing people." Garrison folded his arms. "We all saw her." Daniel's jaw clenched. "You think you saw her? You didn't check the cameras. You didn't even look at her receipt." The crowd around them grew silent. You could hear the hum of the freezer in the back and the ticking of the clock near the register. Then, Daniel picked up the crumpled receipt from the counter and smoothed it out. Every single item was accounted for, including that candy bar. He handed it back to the manager and said quietly, "You owe her an apology." Mr. Garrison's face fell. His arrogance melted into embarrassment. I must have made a mistake," he stammered. Daniel didn't respond. He just helped Elena pack her things back into the bag. As he handed it to her, she whispered, "You didn't have to do that." He smiled faintly. "Maybe not. But somebody should have." He helped guide her wheelchair toward the door, with Maya walking carefully beside them, carrying the fallen apple she had picked up from the floor. As the door swung open, the sunlight spilled in, warm and golden, wrapping the three of them in quiet calm. None of them knew it yet, but that single moment, that small act of courage inside a grocery store, would change all of their lives forever. Outside Westbrook Market, the afternoon sun painted the parking lot in soft amber light. Daniel helped Elena roll toward her car, a silver sedan modified with hand controls. Maya skipped beside them, clutching a paper bag filled with apples. Elena smiled faintly, trying to brush off the humiliation from earlier. You really didn't have to step in back there, she said, her voice quiet but steady. Daniel shrugged lightly. Guess I just don't like bullies. When Elena opened her car door and skillfully transferred from her wheelchair to the driver's seat, Daniel was genuinely impressed. He'd never seen someone move with such calm strength. You've done this before, he said, smiling. She laughed softly. Every day. People think I can't, and that's exactly why I do. Something in the way she said it lingered with him. There was courage in her tone, the kind that came from pain, not pride. As they spoke, Maya climbed into the back seat, chatting about how she loved apples but hated the skin. Elena giggled. You sound just like my niece, she said warmly. Before they drove off, she asked, do you two come here often? Pretty much every Saturday, Daniel replied. It's our father-daughter grocery tradition. Well, Elena said, maybe I'll bump into you next time. Hopefully without any drama. They exchanged smiles before she drove away. Daniel stood there for a moment, watching her car disappear into the street, not knowing why his heart felt strangely lighter. A week later, they met again, this time in the cereal aisle. Maya spotted Elena first, rolling toward the checkout with a small basket on her lap. Dad! It's the nice lady from the store, she shouted excitedly. Elena turned, her face lighting up. Hey, Maya. How's my favorite apple lover? Maya giggled and proudly showed her a box of juice pouches. Dad said I can pick one treat today. Wanna help me choose? Daniel laughed awkwardly. She's very persuasive. From that day on, what began as coincidence became habit. Every weekend, Daniel and Maya somehow found themselves in the same grocery aisle as Elena, sometimes chatting about favorite foods, sometimes helping each other carry bags to the car. It wasn't long before their small talk grew into real conversations. Daniel learned that Elena used to be an English teacher before the accident that left her paralyzed. She didn't talk about it often, but when she did, her words carried both pain and peace. One afternoon, while Daniel was loading groceries into his car, Maya frowned and said, Dad, I don't like reading anymore. The letters move too fast. Before Daniel could respond, Elena leaned over and said gently, maybe you just need a new way to read. How about I help you? Maya's eyes widened. Like a teacher? Exactly like a teacher, Elena said, smiling. No charge. Just friends helping friends. Daniel hesitated. You'd really do that? Elena nodded. Of course. I miss teaching, and your daughter reminds me why I loved it. From that moment, their Saturdays changed. Instead of just grocery runs, they met at the small park nearby, where Elena would read children's stories aloud while Maya followed along, her laughter echoing under the old oak trees. Daniel often sat nearby, pretending to scroll through his phone, but really, he watched the way Elena spoke, how her eyes softened when she smiled, and how easily she made his daughter feel seen. Slowly, the woman he had once defended in a grocery store began to feel like someone he couldn't imagine a weekend without. If you're still with me, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, it helps me bring you more stories like this one. Now, let's continue. Weeks drifted by, and the bond between Daniel, Elena, and little Maya grew stronger. Their Saturday meetings had turned into a quiet ritual, laughter over sandwiches, storybooks spread across park benches, and simple joy in each other's company. Elena was no longer just the woman Daniel once defended in a store. She'd become family, someone Maya looked up to, and someone Daniel found himself thinking about long after they said goodbye. But one weekend, everything changed. Elena didn't show up. At first, Daniel thought maybe she'd caught a cold or had an appointment. But when she missed a second week, and then a third, a strange worry began to gnaw at him. He drove to her apartment complex, the address she'd once casually mentioned. When he knocked, there was no answer. The blinds were drawn. The place felt silent, almost abandoned. He slipped a note under her door. "Just checking if you're okay. Maya misses you." 2 days later, a call came. "Daniel." The voice was quiet but trembling. It was Elena. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I should have told you sooner, but I had to go home." Daniel frowned. "Home? I thought this was your home." There was a pause, then a soft sigh. "Not exactly. My father found me." He didn't understand. "Found you?" Elena took a deep breath. "I wasn't completely honest with you. My full name isn't Elena Moore, it's Elena Bradford. My father is Richard Bradford, founder of Bradford Industries." Daniel's mind raced. Bradford Industries? The multi-million-dollar tech company that sponsored hospitals and schools across Texas? "I left home a year ago," she continued. "After the accident, my dad wouldn't let me live my own life. He kept treating me like I was broken, like I couldn't breathe without him telling me how. So I left. I needed to prove to myself that I could still stand on my own, even if I can't walk." Her voice cracked near the end, and Daniel felt his chest tighten. He spoke softly. "You never had to prove that to me, Elena. You already did, every single day." There was silence for a moment. Then she whispered, "My father wants me back home. I told him no, but he doesn't understand. I don't want to live surrounded by pity and money. I just want peace." Daniel closed his eyes, his voice low. "Then come back here. You have people who care about you here. People who don't see a wheelchair when they look at you, they see you." She let out a shaky breath. "You always know what to say." For the first time in weeks, she laughed, quietly, but sincerely. "I'll come by soon," she promised. "I have something I want to tell you in person." That night, Daniel sat by his window, watching the city lights blur in the distance. He realized he wasn't just missing her smile or her stories. He was missing her presence, the calm she brought into his messy little world. He finally understood what Maya had noticed long before he did. This wasn't just friendship anymore. If you've ever cared for someone who suddenly vanished from your days, you'll understand what Daniel felt that week. Days turned into a quiet ache. Elena hadn't called again. Daniel tried to convince himself she just needed time, but deep down, a restlessness had settled in him, the kind that keeps you awake even when the world outside is still. Then, one rainy evening, as thunder grumbled somewhere beyond the rooftops, his phone rang. Unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. "Mr. Cole," a deep voice asked. "This is Officer Gaines from the Austin Police Department. I believe you know an Elena Bradford." Daniel's heart dropped. His hands went cold. "Yes," he breathed. "Is she okay?" There was a pause, then the officer said, "She's fine now, but she was brought in after a car accident. Nothing fatal, a few cuts and bruises. She's at St. Mary's Hospital. She asked for you." By the time Daniel reached the hospital, the rain had turned into a downpour. His shirt clung to his skin as he ran through the automatic doors, his breath shallow, his mind spinning. When he entered her room, Elena looked pale but peaceful. A small bruise marked her cheek, and her wheelchair sat quietly in the corner. "Hey," she whispered, her lips curling into a tired smile. "You always show up when I'm at my worst." Daniel's throat tightened. "You scared the hell out of me." "I scared myself too," she admitted softly. "My father insisted I come home, but on the way there, the driver lost control. I didn't want to call him. I didn't want him to see me like this again. So I called you." Daniel took her hand, his voice trembling. "You did the right thing." She looked up at him, eyes glossy with tears. "I didn't think you'd still care." He let out a shaky laugh. "Still care?" "Elena, I never stopped." For a long moment, silence filled the room, the kind of silence that carried warmth instead of distance. Then, as rain beat against the window, Elena said quietly, "When I first met you, I thought you were just being kind. But now, I realize you were the only one who ever treated me like I wasn't broken." Daniel squeezed her hand gently. "That's because you're not." Tears slid down her face, and he brushed one away with his thumb. She whispered, "If life gives me another chance, I want it to be with people like you and Maya. Somewhere simple. Somewhere real." He smiled faintly. "Then let's build that kind of life. Together." The storm outside grew louder, but in that small room, everything felt still, like time had finally paused long enough for two hearts to breathe again. If you've ever lost and found someone all over again, you'll know how fragile and beautiful those moments can be. Before we end, remember to like, share, and subscribe. It helps more people find stories like this one. A month later, the world looked different for all of them. Elena had moved into a small cottage on the outskirts of Austin, a quiet place with a garden that caught the morning light just right. Daniel helped her settle in, fixing shelves, hanging curtains, and planting sunflowers with Maya in the backyard. Maya adored her. She would race down the porch steps, calling, "Miss Elena. Look what I drew." Her small hand stained with paint, her laughter bright enough to lift the whole yard. For the first time in years, Elena's smile came easily. There were no reporters, no hospital visits, no pity, or just the hum of an ordinary life she'd always dreamed of. One Saturday morning, Daniel brought coffee to the porch where she sat sketching. He handed her a cup. "Black, no sugar, just the way you like it." She grinned. "You remember." "How could I forget?" he said, sitting beside her. "You're kind of unforgettable." She laughed softly, the sound mingling with the breeze. Then, looking out toward the garden, she whispered, "Do you ever think about how strange it is, the way pain sometimes leads us right where we need to be?" Daniel nodded. "Yeah. Sometimes life breaks us just enough to open us." She turned to him. "That's exactly what happened, isn't it?" He smiled. "I think so." For a while, they sat in silence, no rush, no fear. Just peace. Maya's laughter echoed in the distance as she chased butterflies near the flowers. And then, as the sun rose higher, Elena said quietly, "You know, for the first time since the accident, I don't wake up wishing things were different. I wake up grateful." Daniel looked at her, his voice barely above a whisper. "You should be. You've rebuilt something beautiful, not just your life, but ours too." She reached for his hand. "Thank you for never giving up on me." He smiled. "You never gave up on yourself. I just stood by to remind you." The wind shifted, carrying the faint scent of rain from the hills. The world felt wide and open again, full of second chances and quiet miracles. And as Maya ran toward them, laughing and shouting about a butterfly that wouldn't land on her finger, Elena looked at Daniel and said, "I think this is home." He nodded slowly. "Yeah. I think so too." Sometimes, love doesn't arrive with fireworks or grand gestures. Sometimes, it's as simple as showing up, again and again, until broken things learn how to heal. And for Daniel, Elena, and Maya, healing had finally found its home. Thank you for watching today's story. If it moved you, if it reminded you that true wealth lies in love and courage, don't forget to subscribe and share. And remember, the next time you witness someone being treated unfairly, you have a choice: to look away or to make a stand. The world needs more people who choose compassion. Until next time, this is Emotional Tales, reminding you that every ending is simply the beginning of something new.